Hey Somerville, it's me again, Janet Cormier, and yes, we are at Art at SCAT, and I have found still another treasure, another fabulous artist in Somerville. You have so many of them. Every time I turn around, there's someone else and doing creative, wonderful things. And this is Paul Kroner, who is, do you love his hat, first off? Do you not love his hat? It's just very, very cool. Love it. You should be a musician, too. And he is the painter and creator of what you see here. I saw his work online, and because that's what I do, the creepy thing of finding you artists, since you don't come out to me, and locating. And this man was brave enough to come on the show. And
pretty scary.
Yes, I know. And just notice, too, how he matches. He didn't even know what the set looked like, and he matches the backdrop. That is so wonderful. I don't know if you talked to Wendy, the executive director, but you must have gotten the directive.
Truly luck.
It's just very good. And thank you for coming to the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's
nice to be here.
It is a pleasure. I saw your portraits, and I was blown away.
Thank you.
I try to do portraits, but they don't really look like those people. I think I told you within 60 seconds, I'm like, oh, who cares? And then I start doing my own interpretation. But your work is, it's peaceful in a way, but also your colors, your palette that you decide to use to bring out the personality of your subject is really intriguing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So tell us a bit about yourself. How did you start?
I want to just say one thing to what you said. Was a quote by Picasso, who painted Gertrude Stein, and she sat for him like 60 or 90 times for that painting that we all know. And at the end of it, she said, "What? It doesn't look like me." And he said to her, "It will." And, and to this day, we all think that that's what she looks like, is what that painting looks like. So I don't know if these people look like who they are, but they do now, right?
That man got away with a lot. It's a good thing he was a genius.
So I am sort of a mid-career, late to come to being an artist. I always wanted to be, but I went to design school instead of art school and became a graphic designer, which I still practice today. And about 8 or 9 years ago, I really sort of got bit by the bug to pursue the art, and had a little bit more time in my schedule, thanks to the economy tanking back in the, 08s and 09s. It gave me a little bit more time, and allowed me to have some time to pursue it. And so I paint and I sculpt, and I love getting to do it. It feels like a real pleasure and honor to be able to create things. And
did you start with portraits?
Well, I've always been interested in people. I mean, it's a common subject. So it's where a lot of my initial painting classes started out, where you painted from people. Okay. And use models, and you work with nudes, and then you start developing your own practice and working out of your studio and inviting friends to come over and sit for you. And that's always fun, and it's a challenge.
Wait, I want my friends to hear that part, because no one has ever offered to model, and I wasn't thinking just with their clothes on, of course, but no one has offered, so thank you. I want to play that back later. Okay.
They're great subject matters, they're non-judgmental, and you can work with them, and you can have beer with them while you're working.
Well,
so
see,
that always
that
works.
would help,
Yeah.
because I could see a friend coming by and looking at what I painted of them, and then that's not me. My nose doesn't look like that.
Yeah. Well,
that never happened?
Well, it takes a long time for it to look like somebody, for me anyway, because I start out pretty ugly.
Oh, all right. That's what I could do. So which one would you like to start with?
Well, I'll start with the one that's on the easel here.
Okay.
This is one of my latest portraits.
Can you help me take it down, and I'll just hold it?
And this is of my good friend, Ron McLean, who's an author out of Roslindale. And I'll give a little plug for his new book, because it just won the Indie bookseller's Mystery of the Year last year, a book called Headlong. And he's a great guy. He's got a really great sense of humor and sort of this little twinkly,
which you captured.
sarcastic sense of humor at times, which I really like how I've captured him in this sort of like, you can just sort of see he's about to say something a little sarcastic or humorous, and it's just right there in his tongue. And and I like capturing that in him. And I really, on this, try to really own a lot of big, bold brushstrokes, especially in his shirt and his clothing, and just being very gestural with that, but getting very modeled with his face. And that's a style I like to play with.
How long did it take you to do this?
Oh, man. He sat for me 4 or 5 times, and I took photographs as well. So I worked from a combination of life and photos, and painting like that, 40, 50 hours of time over, a couple months. So it feels like it takes a long time. And as you know, you're a painter yourself, you really wrestle with it because oftentimes you're looking at it and you're just like, this doesn't look very good. And
the fear factor, the critic.
Yeah, and you want to stop and go, why am I doing this? And that's when I usually try to do something radical and make a big move that'll shift it around and allow me to see it in sort of different context and bring a new set of eyes to it.
When you say shift it around, do you literally move the painting? Or?
No, well, I mean, there's a lot of moves that happen in terms of, things that you're correcting along the way, or I am anyway. And I like to start out fast, and then I have to slow it back down and sort of find out where I am in the painting. And you keep finding yourself,
Because people have different ways of doing that. Some people turn it upside down. They look at it. They work it through a mirror.
Yeah.
They just different angles. Walk out, come back.
You get distance from it at times, and you move it around. I'll photograph it with my phone and take it home and look at my computer. And as soon as I do that, it totally changes your interaction with it, and you start seeing all the things you want to change. And it's somehow that medium. I do a lot of logo design, and one of the things we always do with logo design is you reverse it. If it's black and white, you make it white and black, and all of a sudden you see proportional issues or negative space issues, which really start to confuse the image. And it's just a way of sort of shifting it around. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll put a stroke of color or something on there that really is out of place, that allows me to start seeing what the other colors need to do.
Oh, that's interesting. Can you help me put this back?
Sure.
Oh, thank you. And was he happy with it?
Yes, he was. He likes it a lot, but he declined to hang it in his home because he doesn't want it in his home.
Okay.
So.
And he's a mystery writer, so that explains. That's a mystery.
Yeah, that is a mystery.
That is a mystery. And is there a special order, or can we...
There's not. So if you want to move around.
Is this the only woman in the group?
No, that's actually a man.
Oh, that is.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I saw the hair. That's right. No women here.
It's a smaller painting. I believe that's something in one sitting or 2 sittings, and it's all from the model sat, and so it's a direct piece with the model. And this piece, again, it's trying to pick up again on some bolder strokes, and I have a fairly rich chromatic color palette. I like bold color. I respond to it well, and so I like to incorporate that wherever I can. And I like structure as well. I'm a sort of a composition nut. When I look at my paintings, I really like to dissect them and look at them both from how they're the expressive quality, but also the mathematic proportions to them and what's happening with the shapes and the placement.
Does that, let's see, is your work as a graphic designer, does that give you that extra vision, or when you're looking at your work, or does it? can it be a plus or a minus?
It can be a plus and minus. It can become a little too analytical at times. And sometimes, that's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing. So I'm aware of it, and I wrestle with it, but it is what it is. And for the most part, I think it informs my work in a positive way.
Because it's amazing how your professional, your other life, if you're an artist, gives you a whole different perspective on your work. I've heard that from teachers, and I've heard it from photographers, and so it does give you, something you struggle with.
Yeah.
And
You want to grab this one down here?
I will.
So this has always been one of my favorite portraits, and this actually started out as a fairly direct representational realistic painting. And
what happened?
For the way I work on this is she sat for me, and I went home and I started sketching her on my iPad, which I do a lot, and I just kept refining, and all of a sudden I just started breaking it down into forms, and just tried to go, a lot of teachers, when they're working with you, they talk about finding the big shapes. That's a common thread from all teachers, find the big shape, find the big shape. So this is sort of me taking that to the sort of this other extreme. Find the shape, identify the colors. These, as I said, I like bold colors, so.
There's more texture to this, isn't there?
I used a lot of wax in my paint mixture to build a lot of depth to it. I mean, some of this paint's popping off 1/4 of an inch off the canvas, so it's almost got a bas relief quality to it, sort of sculptural in a way.
It is. It's very figural.
You've got a good angle for that over there. You can really see the depth of it.
So when you come into the exhibit, then you have to look at this painting sideways too. You have to get
sideways down from below.
Yeah, to see the layers and the colors. I love her eyes.
Thank you. It's got an illustrative quality to it, more so than this one.
What was her response to this?
She's never seen it, as far as I know, unless she's come to an open studio and seen it.
Because it's fabulous. It has a vintage feel to it, sort of a 60s feel. I feel like, into one of the 60s movies, I would see this in there. And,
interesting.
I just love the spirit of it.
Thank you.
So this is the lady in the set, okay. And she's exciting. And the colors, like when you come to see this, the texture, it's not just the texture, but it's the glow that there is in the painting. That's just beautiful.
Thank you. I had done a male version of this, but it was I had used a photograph of Modigliani, and I had taken and I had approached him the same way, with the same sort of spirit of impasto and really rich colors, and that one sold a number of years ago. So I don't have it for comparison, but
I love his work also.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm just going to put this right over here. And if you could hand me.
Sure. This is a. This is one of my wife's favorite paintings.
Is it her?
No, it's not her. It's actually the friend of my daughter's.
Oh, okay.
Her name is Sammy. And this is a painting we had a small portrait group over at the studio, and she sat for us. And she's just has a very gentle and soft way about her. And she's a very charming young woman. And as I worked with it, and she was no longer sitting, but I had the painting started, and I started to try to take it and add some context to her pose and her gaze. So the entire room is made up, and it's not a part. It's not a part of her sitting. It's just a part of trying to find a narrative for the sitting, so that we're at it sort of post-production, I guess.
Have you done that before? Do you do that a lot?
I don't do it a lot. This was really the first time I did that. And there's a painter in Somerville named Damon Lear. I don't know if you know him. He owns the Boston Figurative Arts Center, and he does this a lot with his work, where he's taking people come in and sit, and he'll put them in these scenarios. And his studio used to be right outside of my studio, and I would see his work. So he had a big influence on inventing scenes to put people into.
That's cool though, because you know that people work in studios, in group studio sites, but you never hear anyone say, well, this one influenced me or that one. They sort of just like it because you can just talk to someone on the other side of the wall. I
think you're always, if you're looking, you're always being influenced. There's a number of people you can look at who are just down the hall from you, and you've seen their work and incorporating
but people don't
parts
say
of
it. People never talk about it, though. No. That's what's so cool about this.
Hopefully I didn't say something I wasn't supposed to.
He revealed a secret.
It's supposed to be a big secret.
He revealed a secret.
So yeah, this piece is called, I think it's called The Letter. And so it's got this sort of context that she's received this card, she's gazing out in the distance, and there's this open sea. And
so you give the whole story, you create the whole story for it.
Yeah, so they really try to create it. But this is one of these pieces where it's, there's a lot of mathematics into the composition as well, so it's very structured, which I also, as I said before, I really like.
And I'm going to pass this back to you. Now, what was her reaction to the painting?
She likes it. It was hanging in a show that I had last spring, and she saw it, and she always gets this big grin on her face when she sees it, and I think she likes it. I hope she likes it. Do you like it, Sammy? I hope so.
You can call up the station and let us know. You can have a rebuttal, and at some point. That's interesting, though, that you just approach friends and just say.
Yeah, it's one of my goals is to try to do this with neighbors, and to do a whole series of them and do a show in a local coffee shop or something like that.
Ambitious.
So it's one of my little pet projects I hope to make happen someday.
Well, I sketch people on the tee, but I'm trying not to make it look too much like them, because I don't want to I sort of use them for the shape and the form, but I feel I don't want to be a voyeur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people can get a little put off by that.
And so I try my best to. Of course, there was the time the two guys who were drunk on the tee said, "Wow, that looks just like that guy in the third row." And I was like, "Oh, brother." So now, guess who this is?
This is hopefully, obviously, a selfie, and a very.
I like this. This is the painter's selfie.
Yes, and I don't know about other painters, but the great thing about doing selfies as a painter is that you're there, you're cheap, you're willing, and you don't complain a lot, and you can experiment on yourself. So I will, if I'm not real sure what to do, I'll sit down and do a selfie, because it'll get the juices flowing and let me experiment with color, and I sort of like to use that as an exercise. So this is a very quick and gestural painting, and rather garish color scheme at times, which seemed appropriate for that particular setting. One of the things I really like in this painting, or that appeals to me, is the use of line. Mm-hmm. And I really like the use of line in paintings, and have always responded well to other painters who use that, people like Alice Neal or Picasso or Matisse, who always incorporated line in their work and weren't shy to keep it in there. So that. Do
you look in the mirror, or are you working from photos?
No, I looked in the mirror for this, so I'm actually sitting like that while I'm painting, so it was a rather difficult pose to hold while trying to paint over here.
Yeah, I've tried. Even drawing, sometimes I'll look into the reflection on the train window, and I forget there's a person sitting there. So they think that I'm drawing them, and then it's me, but It never quite looks like me.
Does it come over and they look at it and they think they're going to see themselves and see you? And
Well, no, they just stare hostilely. And so I take that as a hint. And then I say, it's not you, it's me, which sounds like an argument of some kind, like we're breaking up. It's
Yeah.
not you, it's me. So
But we
it
can be
makes for,
friends.
yeah, it makes for interesting conversation.
Does anybody come over and rip anything out of your hands and
No.
take it away from you?
But recently I've ripped pages out and given them to people, which I've never done before.
And did they respond well to that?
Yes, there was a young couple, they were 16. They were just so cute together and they weren't being obnoxious. So I looked up and gave them the sheet. And then I said, wait, I need to take it back. And they're like, what? And then I said, Happy Valentine's Day, because it was Valentine's Day. And then I signed it.
Nice.
I hope they're together.
Forever.
Who has custody of that? But on occasion, I've done that, though. But I love, from this angle, too, your eyes, the intensity, pondering. There you go.
Peering into my soul.
Yes. And then looking out again into the world. It's like a superhero.
I don't know about that, but it was it's sort of fun to work that quickly and that gesturally when you, in comparison to a piece like this, which has a lot of labor into it. This is just like, going to get it down as quickly as I can.
Do you create your frames and your...
This is all handmade and just with scrap in my basement.
Can I flip it around?
Sure.
Do you mind if I show people?
Yeah.
Because I'm fascinated when people do this. So you've taken...
It's just a piece of 1/4-inch masonite and just pine framing that is left over from other projects. And
you left some of it bare, too, right here, right?
I did. It's the actual color of the masonite is part of the palette and seemed to be somehow integrated in its incompletion.
I had to look several times because I thought, wow, how did he get that color? And it's unusual that the brown, you wouldn't think it would go with the pinkish, the flesh tone there, but it works very well.
Thank you.
So
It's sort of nice to have that base color to respond to, so that your first mark that goes down, you have an immediate reaction and response to it, as opposed to it being white. So,
well, when do you paint, or what is your time, like what is your practice like when you paint?
Well, it's been a little disrupted lately because I've been busier with my design work than I've been able to. But when I'm in a good groove, I like to paint early. I get into the studio and paint 2 or 3 hours, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and then again later in the afternoon. My current studio, the light is pretty intense as it comes in from about 10 to 1, so it's not the best time to be trying to paint because you get direct sunlight.
So I love that he's talking about his experience, and I'm showing this as he sees himself in the future.
Yeah, a selfie plus 15, hopefully plus 15.
Again, thoughtful, not as playful.
You know, you've done self-portraits, I'm thinking, and it's hard to, to keep a smile or.
Oh, I never do.
But your
Yeah, you
face
don't
at
just
rest
smile.
always looks tired somehow and not animated. But I think it's a true way to look at yourself. Again, a very quick study, maybe an hour, and I think I may have painted this with paint that was on a palette from another painting, and I thought, well, I'm just going to use that and try to do something with it. And I brought this in because there's, the mark making on it pleases me. It's sort of bold and not blended, and just sort of.
The eyes are wonderful, the sparkle in the eyes.
Thank you.
Now, very quickly, because our time seems to, I don't know, it goes by very fast. Any words of inspiration for any artist out there?
The thing I would say is that a couple things is that failure is a part of it. Allow yourself to fail. Allow yourself to fail over and over again, and allow your own voice to come through.
In other words, have your friends pose for you, but don't let them say much.
Yes.
That's the way to go. Well, I want to thank you very
thank you.
much. It went by very fast.
Wow, I know. That was extremely quick.
And we love your work. We love everything. You know, you're going to be here for May and June.
Yes.
And so you got to come down to the SCAT studio. We're looking forward to it. Maybe he'll do, reception. We don't know yet. And for all of you out there, you have more inspiration to paint. So I expect you to do it right after the show.
Get out
Just
there.
get out there and paint. And as I end every show, Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be to you. And thank you so much for sharing.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And for the outfit. It's just I just like that. So take care, everyone. Paint,
Thank
paint, and oh yeah, and come down to SCAT. That's very important
Yes.
too.
Right in Union Square.
That's it. You take the tea. So,
All right. Thank you.
thank you.